scientists and artists are both at the root trying to understand essential aspects of nature and of our humanity.
I actually think it's the big frontier. How does the brain process information?
This conference is about what we don't know.
If we want to understand aesthetics, we have to understand the notion that our reaction to our sensory experiences in the world are occurring both with evolutionarily ancient subconscious processes and more evolutionarily modern, mostly conscious processes.
What we can say now is what parts of the brain get active in the act of perception. And we can say, well, that brain is experiencing this in a way that has activated the pathways we associate with pleasure. We can say those two things. We have very little idea how those things merge and meld together. But it's timely. These are areas that can be approached now and that can be investigated. And the point of this conference is to help focus and sharpen those questions and how they can be asked at this point.
Why bother in a quest to discover what art and universal truth about art, aesthetics, creativity, the brain, and the art experiences? I mean, why do we get up in the morning? It's interesting. It's our frontier. It's what tomorrow's about.
We remember the first time we fall in love. We remember the birth of a child. We might remember a beautiful sunset. And those moments really linger in our lives and are set apart from the ordinariness of daily life. And I feel that great art captures that. So what happens in the mind to elevate you above that ordinary existence is something I'd love to discover.
There are certain brain regions that are involved in processing information from different senses. So there is a vision region, and there is a hearing region, and there is a touch region, and there is a region that gives us our vestibular sense, our sense of balance, and how our body and head is related to gravity. There is a region of our brain called the ventral tegmental area, and it projects to another region called the nucleus accumbens. It uses a neurotransmitter called dopamine, and this dopamine-using pathway is the core of our ability to feel pleasure.
The brain is a collection of perhaps 1 trillion neurons that talk to each other by releasing chemicals called neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are the alphabet of the brain and the most powerful tool for understanding all sorts of brain functions. One particularly well-known and important neurotransmitter is serotonin. People realize that it has something to do with emotions because if you had drugs that depleted the serotonin in the brain, animals and people became depressed. If you elevated serotonin, their moods were enhanced.
We know how, for example, roughness is coded in the brain, and I think that gives us a clue about how similar things like aesthetics will be coded and represented in the brain.
I think artists understand that the eye is not the story behind vision and the ear is not the story behind hearing. It's how we process that information, what the perspective is, what is important to bring to that input.
When you take this pleasure system that has been hardwired for things like food and water and sex, and then you combine that with our ability to learn things, to build associations utterly randomly, then what you get is the ability of our human reward circuit, our human pleasure center, to be activated by utterly arbitrary things.
Understanding how the brain processes information about perception can have considerable implications for how we teach children. Right now, we teach to tests, but that isn't the way that important thinking takes place. Important thinking involves thinking out of the box, taking very disparate, seemingly unconnected ideas and putting them together.
I think that sometimes art actually shows itself in science. For instance, if you were to walk outside and listen to a bird singing, That bird is using musical intervals and he's singing real notes, and you can go and play that on a piano or any other instrument. And my question is, how does a bird know what music is? How does he know what all those intervals are? How does he know how to do that? Well, there's something going on larger than us that we don't really understand, and that's what art is.
Today we have a motley assortment of people in the audience, scientists, educators, artists. Usually they don't talk to each other. In my experience, putting those together invariably results in the most important contributions to mankind.
We're beginning the quest to discover what happens inside our head when we experience art. And if you flip it around to the other side, what artists are doing to make that happen. They are intuitive neuroscientists. They don't even know it.